Welcome everybody to Eye the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So recently I did a reading based on the concept from the old movie Sliding Doors about different choices. And it made me think about what other sort of movies and so forth might be an interesting inspiration for a reading. And I thought about the butterfly effect. And of course the butterfly effect is a movie that has a particular sort of sci-fi approach to a theory that existed before that movie existed, and it sort of came from the concept of the interconnectivity of everything, and that's a very spiritual concept, but it's also, you know, quantum physics, it's science, it's the material as well. And it had it, if I remember correctly, that a butterfly flapping its wings in the Amazon could have some longer term impact on, say, the US stock market, for instance. So it was the sort of concept of small things can have very major ripple effects, not always at the location where the small thing first happened. So I think that's a really interesting idea to explore. And I thought it's a good way to anchor a question around what small changes could you make in one or more aspects of your life that could have a big ripple effect that is beneficial for you and or others, people you care about, the world, whatever it might be, in that area of your life or in others as well, that sort of whole ripple effect again. So we're going to have a look at small changes or issues or things to contemplate in sort of love and relationships, in career, and also in spiritual aspects of your life. And because this is a collective reading, once you're drawn to a reading, it may be that it's really just one of those areas that Spirit wants to talk to you about that may or may not then ripple out to some of the others. Or it may be that there are small but really beautiful changes that can be made or contemplated in all aspects of your life, which on a cumulative level brings about some really beneficial outcomes for you. So we shall see what sort of things Spirit has to suggest in all of those areas. So we're going to look at that both with oracle cards to start with, and then with tarot. We're going to bring it together with tarot, and then we'll look at any other advice that Spirit has around those aspects of your life and how you can make those minor changes. So to choose your reading, of course, is one of the key first steps in getting the messages from Spirit, and it's obviously open to you to choose more than one reading if you like, because it might be a small change in love and relationship shows up in one and a small change in career shows up in another, for instance. So you do you with that. I'll put down the numbers for the readings as I always do, for those who like to have the visual and choose by numbers. What I'm also using, and this card will be part of a overarching sort of energy for the reading, is a choice of cards from the Liquid Crystal Oracle, which is a really beautiful and interesting oracle that connects crystal energy and all the properties, sort of spiritual and otherwise, with crystals, with Atlantean channeling, so things about Atlantis, wisdom and so forth. So a really interesting oracle, and I thought might be good as a overarching sense of what we may have got from distant times in Atlantis that still resonates with us now. And of course crystals being something that we all can have around us, we can benefit from those energies and so forth. So for pile number one, we have Iolite, which in this card represents vision. For pile number two, we have Imperial Topaz, which is about confident manifestation. For pile three, we have Dioptaz, I may not be pronouncing that correctly, which is about the healing heart. And for pile number four, we have Morganite, which is about equality and love. So those energies, crystals, concepts may draw to you, the imagery may, the sort of sigils may, the numbers, whatever works for you. When you know what reading or readings that you want to go to, as always, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile one to your reading. Actually, I'll put down the numbers so that it's clear. So this is interesting. I think this is going to be one of the groups, and it may happen more often than not, I'm not sure yet, but that are going to be where a small change in one has a ripple effect on others, and then it almost folds back upon itself and then causes more and more change. There's almost a sort of sense of a building sort of set of waves, you know, when the tide is coming in or something like that with these cards. And part of the reason I say that is, firstly, you chose Iolite, which is about vision, as I said in the introduction. But the full energy of this in this particular deck is picking up psychic abilities, spiritual enhancement, dreams and visions, clairvoyance, all of those sort of things. There is a sense of a lot being downloaded, and it's primarily coming through the third eye chakra. So it could be coming in telepathically in dreams and visions, that sort of thing. And there is a concept of connecting this to love and connecting this to relationship and right relationship, the right sort of balance of male and female energies in the broad sense, not gender, but in the sense of the sort of divine masculine and divine feminine, for want of a better way of describing it. So there's something around that. And looking at these, so this is around the changes in love and relationships, this is around career, and this is around spirituality. If I go to love and relationships first, I feel like there's almost a ray of light going in the direction of love and relationships and spirituality, then eventually coalesces with changes in your career. I know this is a bit complicated, but bear with me. When I look at love and relationships, it looks to me as though when we've got victim here and then femme fatale, that people who've come here have suffered in some way for relationships in the not too distant past, maybe still are doing the case. You may be misunderstood. You may be looking for the right person, and people may characterize you as a femme fatale and be jealous of you, for instance, and therefore victimize you, and you keep going through cycles where you feel that you're very much at the hands of fate. On the other hand, it could be that you have lost love to a femme fatale type. There could be something like that. But what this seems to be talking about is finding a change in attitude about relationship, because it's almost as though at the moment you toggle between, I feel very confident, I will draw people in, I can have serendipity work for me, I'm very attractive, to, oh, it didn't work, here's a cycle, what's happened, I'm feeling like a victim. And so I feel like there's a pattern here where there could be an imbalance in relationships and an imbalance in how you look upon yourself, like you're either the most attractive person in the room, or you're someone that people have taken advantage of. And it may be that you cycle between these. What that would be saying to me, and what this sort of psychic energy coming into you, is that you are somewhere in between these. You are very attractive to other people, but you have to understand the implications of that so that you don't become a victim of it. People don't become jealous of you. People don't start to put you in categories or not understand you or try and conquer you in some way. There's a cycle, and you've maybe learnt it from patterns around your family or around friendships or even really intense relationships. This has the feeling that when you fall in love, you really fall in love. You draw a lot of people who really fall in love with you, but getting the balance right and not feeling that it's all, well, it's just fate, like not saying it's all serendipity. It makes me again think there's that movie Serendipity where the person thinks that getting together has to be serendipitous, and if it isn't, it somehow isn't meant to be. So it's interesting giving the allegory to the butterfly effect and movies here. I think there's a change in this of taking more control over what it is that you're looking for, and almost a balance between your masculine and feminine sort of energies, masculine being more the pursuer, the active, the ambitious, and feminine being the receiving, the nurturing and the caring, because these feel like at the moment you are almost letting the shadow sides of both of those things occur. And this isn't meant as a criticism. This is just like a subtle, this is not going to be major. These are subtle changes, but there's a subtle pattern in this. And I think it's saying that using your sort of psychic and spiritual ability, which we're going to get to, is about you owning really your level of attractiveness, and that you can have more control over the people that come into your life, how you're seen, and so forth. It's very much the sort of person that would draw a lot of people, and as I say, a lot of envy as a result. But you don't have to keep going through this pattern where it's sort of like you're either considered to be, you know, the Don Juan, the femme fatale, or you're considered to be sort of someone that people take advantage of. Or you considered to be someone who makes other people victims in love in some way. You kind of let go of the reins. That's what that seems to be saying. But you can see the cycle, and you can understand how to make it work more for you by connecting into your spiritual self. And if we go over to the spiritual self here, we have wisdom. So there's an energy in you of wisdom. You can actually do this. You are one of the people that I could say this to. So as a group, you're a collective who are ready to hear this, because that's not an easy message to hear. It's not a big change actually that you have to make. It's subtle. This is what we're talking about, but it's about taking back control of things and not feeling as I say, caught in the web of serendipity and the cycles of life. Using the wisdom and healing around your self-esteem and having the courage to do that, having the courage to stand up for yourself if you feel that you've been the victim, or to be able to say that you are not just this person just because you're attractive. There seems to be something around healing your self-esteem because of jealousy or issues that you've had with people, or a sense that you felt out of control in terms of relationship. And this is definitely saying it's really, in a way, an aha moment here, just a fairly subtle aha moment here, which is about how do I take back control and how do I start to be the one who defines who I am, is generated from a sense of understanding the healing that you can do for your self-esteem and what courage and wisdom brought together can bring to you. And then, having done that, I think, and made a very significant positive change around your love and relationships, it then takes you to a much higher level around your career. Because here we have Themis, which is the cosmic order, a sense of something much higher, this connection to the higher realms with the seeker. It's like once you do that, you start to understand the power of manifestation you have, the power of being able to write your own narrative. And therefore, for your career, you start to focus on your goals and how to be independent. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to sort of leave a job if you're in a job, but you are starting to decide for yourself. The aha moment that you need to do that in your love and relationships tells you about what you've been doing spiritually and the work that you've done spiritually. And then it seems to happen here where there is a higher order thing that you're trying to do with your career. Whether it be in a standard organisation, then it's going to be about the values and the culture and what that does for the community, or something along those lines. Or it could be that you decide to set goals and be independent and do something in your career that is more connected to psychic ability, spiritual things and so forth. But I do think this is subtle. I don't want to overestimate this. I think you are neither a femme fatale nor a victim, but you can be seen and perceived in either of those ways because you have almost let go of the reins. When you use your healing here, that shifts that, and you start to see something in yourself and understand how much is channeled, how much wisdom is channeled to you. And so it really is a subtle change here that comes from probably fairly major work you've done already here. And then that goes maybe into your career. Okay, so this is pretty full on. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one tarot deck to look at changes around relationship, career and spirituality. So we'll have 3 rows, one at a time, just to see what else we can find out about these energies. Then I'm going to use a second tarot deck to bring it together and say where's the key energy that you need to focus on for this process, for this butterfly effect to work. So firstly, let's have a look at the energies, the subtle energies of change around relationships for you. See what else Spirit can say. Okay, so I think this is actually really confirming this energy. It's connecting back to the courage that you're going to get from your spiritual approach. But with the 7 of Wands reversed, part of this subtle change is to become more courageous about who you are in relationships and what that means to you, not feeling, as I say, hostage to fate. Also, dealing with illegitimate competition, because I think you do attract that to you. I think you would probably have frenemies. I think you would probably be someone who'd attract people who you haven't given the signals to, and then they try to make out that you're just drawing them in and you victimize them. There's a pattern here. So I think it's definitely saying that there is picking up the courage from the spiritual work and the healing that you've done. That is an energy, a subtle change around courage about how you present yourself in relationships, because you are wise. With the Fool reverse, this is picking up the wisdom. You have been through some difficult relationships and you have been misinterpreted, I think, definitely. And it did make you step away from relationships for a time, but that's not really what you're meant to do. With the 9 of Pentacles reversed, you're meant to connect, you're meant to have love, you're meant to find the right connection for you, but it's got to be your judgment and your timing. So this is about, it's not about fate, it's about judgment, it's about wisdom. So I think it's really confirming that this is the subtle, it's about taking control. So let's have a look at career. Okay, so even though I do think it kind of toggles between those and then goes to career, this again I think is showing what we're seeing here. It's the independence, it's the difference, it's your goals. It's like the courage that you get from the relationship starts to make you think about what else you can understand and do. There's a lot around what your values are and coming into the knowing of your values and the articulation of your values. I do not think in the longer term you will be in conventional organisations or even necessarily working with teams. This independence is very important. You may move home, you may move jobs, move organisations, or you may take on something that is much more creative and close to the heart, but it's not conventional. See, I think that even some of this, it's like following conventional rules. It's like the game of love and then being sort of put into sort of boxes for the part and then breaking free of that and being true to who you are. It makes you realise that you can do this in other parts of your life. I do think it follows the relationship stuff, but I think that it starts to bring in a period of time for you and a different approach with your self-esteem to starting to navigate you. And I feel like you're meant to be in relationship, but you're meant to be very independent around career. So it's almost like it's maybe reversed at the moment. Maybe at the moment you feel like you're not in relationship or they're not working, but in career you're sort of in a team and so forth. I think this is almost reversing it. So let's see what the spiritual shift is. I mean, as I say, we know a little bit about building your self-esteem and your courage through the wisdom that you're connecting to. But what else can Spirit tell us about this? Justice reversed. The World. Eight of Pentacles reversed. The Tower. Wow. Okay, so this is confirming that really, even though the subtle shift is mainly at this point going to be around relationship and then I think lead to career, you've done a hell of a lot of work spiritually. And you've been prepared to go through a tower moment and feel it, really feel it. So you've done a lot of work, and I think Spirit wants to sort of say that a lot of the change that was occurring in the Spirit you've already done. There's not sort of like minor tweaks around that. This is you've burnt out before you all that wasn't working. You've started to understand and build that courage, and you've unlearned some things. You've sort of moved away from conventional roles in probably all aspects of your life. You started to realize how individual you are, and you've completed the cycle. Like, you have done the work, definitely. Now you need to, as I say, unlearn certain things and think about the impact of what you had been trained in almost spiritually, that you've now sort of taken all before you and completed the cycle and learned. What told you when you were young or in a spiritual group or whatever it is that you had to be lesser and you had to take a role? What injustice was done? Was it about your gender? Was it about your sort of preferences? Was it about what the sort of scriptures might say in any particular type of belief structure? Was it about competition? There's something, but you have actually done the work and recognized that, and it's because of that that you're now ready to make, I mean, this is big changes. You made big changes there. This is why the butterfly effect is around relationship, because it's starting to permeate there, and then I think it sort of hits a big wave when it hits your career as well. So well done you, I've got to say. You've done a lot. So let's see with the other deck about what synthesizes all of this and what would Spirit want to say in terms of focus around it. Okay, for a start, we have 2 8s reversed, and I think that's sort of about the structures of the world. So I think it is very much also saying, again, this is about changing the structures of the world in some way. You've done it spiritually. You're now going to do it, I think, subtly around relationship and a bit more around career. Spirit is saying that part of the assessment you need to make in both the areas that you're shifting is to what degree have you been hamstrung from getting a return on investment for what you've done? And where has that affected your sense of hope? And where has that affected your sense of connection to spirit? That's what you need to let go of, and you haven't fully done that in the emotional realm, or to some degree in the ambition and career realm. You're still a little bit stuck career-wise, but that's going to shift. And it's about the balance of your hope and vision, and remember this is about vision, with what could return an investment, what could really work for you. So this is about letting go of the last bits of the puzzle. You've done a lot of work around your spirit. It's now time to move this into the realm of business and the realm of relationship. But I do feel that the subtle change, the butterfly effect changes in relationships. It's not as big a change. It's just owning who you are. And that will bring on a bigger change then around your career, and everything flows from that. But this is about small changes, and the small change, the least of the suits there in a sense is the Eight of Cups, because it's cups. We've got two suits that are more around career, and this is more around the spirit. So this is where it is. This is why I have a sense that that's where the subtle change now needs to occur. Okay, so given that, I am going to actually now use some Heart Code Oracles and another deck to have a look at all aspects, but I do think for most who've come here, this is the key to it. So the first one that we're going to look at is energies around relationship. And I was only going to draw one card, but because I think relationship is the key thing here, I'm going to draw two, just to see what else Spirit wants to talk about in terms of the butterfly effect in your approach to you and your relationships. Adventure, surprise. Yeah, I think this is serendipity in a way, has a sense of adventure about it. Cycles have a sense of everything is inevitable. By taking adventure into your own hands, you can surprise yourself with how quickly and how completely you can shift those patterns and those ways that you maybe have been presented to the world. Okay, let's have a look at career and finance, because I do think that after you've made this shift in romance, it's like it encourages you to also think about your career. So let's have a look at career and finance for you. Approval around career. So whatever you do, even if you decide to leave, and I wouldn't be surprised if you do, you're going to have approval. You're going to have the next step. It's going to be there for you. And in terms of finance, favors. Okay, so there's going to be people to support you as well. So when you're ready and you've worked out your goals, I think this is it's grabbing the energy of I'm going to narrate my own life, and doing it first around relationships sets that narrative going. So let's also have a look at the spiritual. Even though I think you've done most of the work for the spiritual, let's see whether there's any residual butterfly effect, small changes and energies that Spirit would like you to think about. April moon, May moon, April, May. So I think that's very much telling us what I've said, that you've done the work here, because April is all about, the April moon is all about setting your intentions, which connects us back here to the career and your goals. And the May moon is moving forward with confidence. And I think it connects to both. You have done the work, as I say. You've done a hell of a lot of shadow work, self-analysis, all that sort of stuff. And you're ready to move into a much, much better cycle, as I say, with only fairly minor, even though this looks like it's major, it's actually, there's not much you need to do here. Okay, so just to give you a little bit more advice on the journey of the butterfly effect, we're going to have a look with the Stories Oracle around what a couple of questions might be useful to ask yourself when you're considering how to do this, how to do the two sort of waves of change. So these are actually a bit hard to read, so I'm going to read them for you before I put them down. So the first one is Pisces. What if you believed in the power of your dreams? So yes, your dreams, your narrative, start to believe in that. You've done the work and you are getting downloads. There's a lot of spiritual heft to this. And the second question, Crater. Where are you at on your priority list? Yeah, where are you at on your priority list, particularly around relationships? You know, sort of, so really think about that and put what you want in relationships first. Okay, also want to draw a couple of cards for signs you may see when it's time to start to do that, or when the subtle changes that you're doing are setting off the butterfly effect for you. White light, that doesn't surprise me with the spiritual sort of connections. And loved ones in spirit. Okay, you may be getting some guidance from sort of people who passed on, or ancestors or something like that, or even sort of spirit guides where there is a great deal of love, who want you to be more in love with yourself in a way, and recognize the beauty of your soul and what you've actually done. So you may hear about loved ones who have passed on, you may see white light, you may dream of it, you may see it in a meditation. These are all things that you are moving through, the subtle changes that will really reap the big rewards for you. Okay, so to finalize, I want to draw a couple of crystal chakra affirmations and then use a couple of astro chakra cards, just for any final energy to help you make these changes. Even though I really think, Pole 1, you're well on your way. You're well on your way. But let's see what, as a closing thing, Spirit wants to give. So we have the sacral chakra, which is about creating yourself, your love, and all that sort of thing, and the root chakra at your most basic level. And it does very much tilt towards the things that relationships are about. So the sacral chakra has tangerine quartz, which is about curiosity and playfulness. I honor my inner child by being playful, and I always feed my curiosity. So that serendipitous feeling was partly about curiosity, playfulness, the inner child. It's just that it's got caught up in cycles that didn't work. Turning that around for you, starting to create what you want, and remembering the magic of childhood and how much we knew that we could manifest then, that we tend to forget when we get older, I think will be powerful. With the root chakra, cherry quartz brings balance and drive. I'm driven to succeed, and I create a balanced lifestyle. So yeah, it's telling the story again, making this change to take control of serendipity and make it work for you, and to define yourself in relationships, then leads you to the things around your career and your success and your drive. Okay, so let's finish off with a couple of astro chakra cards, just for any final information that Spirit wants to talk to you about. Creativity again. There's something very creative about you. It may well be that's why you need to be independent in your work. Oh my goodness. Second chakra, first chakra again. It's all saying here. You are here, and then you move to your career. So with creativity here, we use Mercury. So this is about, what are your true emotions? I mean, yeah, communicate your true emotions, not what's been projected on you. You've had a lot projected on you, but you know now who you are. You've done the work. So start to create that. And then we have Pluto, major transformation, renewal coming through on who you are at your core, and I think also the material things in life and your balance and your drive. So well done you, Pole 1. I think you're about to really, really ride the waves of success, and a much fairer, because I don't think you've been treated fairly, a much fairer kind of energy for your relationships, and one that is much more aligned to you. So more power to you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope it resonated. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pole 2, to your reading. So this card was the one that you chose to come to this reading, or that you may have come for other reasons, but it's a kind of overarching sense, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then these 3 different sets of cards. This is around love and relationships, and where there could be minor changes that could have maximum benefits. This is around career, and this is around your spiritual quest. I do feel that Spirit is saying that the butterfly effect, the area to look at for subtle, and maybe in your case not so subtle changes, because I think you live large and your energy and your power is large. But I guess if you are that sort of person, something subtle for you might seem pretty big for somebody else, so bear that in mind. But with Imperial Topaz, this is all about manifestation and about power and about bringing what you want into being. And with the energy of the cards here around career, I think that's where we'll start. But what I do want to say about this card, the interesting thing, it's connected to the solar plexus chakra, it's connected to who you are in the world and how you present yourself to the world. And because it is so powerful in manifestation, one of the things that the book that comes along with this deck talks about is this is the sort of card that turns up for somebody who goes, why do I always get what I don't want? And this makes this a really perfect type of energy to look at for this sort of reading, because what it is trying to say is that it's because sometimes you put the energy into what you don't want and what might be sort of like the fears or the deeper sort of things, and not necessarily defining what you do. So given that, let's have a look at the energies around career first, because we have the Lover. So there's something about love, romance, about I think maybe fashion or beauty or creativity in some way, because we also have designer. There is something around, it could be about having great passion for what you do in your career, whatever it is, but there's certainly a kind of artistic side to it. And if you aren't working in a field like that, it may be tilting towards that for you, because it could be saying you really are meant with that manifestation ability to be able to design what you want. And there's a life purpose associated with this for you. But you go deep, like, wow. If you wrote a book, it would be Wuthering Heights, you know, it wouldn't be sort of some rom-com. If you were creating some sort of new fashion line, it would be edgy and really sort of get to the sort of emotions of people. If you ran a business, it's a big business and it deals with things that are maybe not always seen by everybody. But there's also something about love and relationships with it. So you may also be drawn to or do extremely well in any sort of relationship-based career. But with Pluton going deep, you go to the depths. There may be also something cyclical about your career, because in the underworld, we have the story of Persephone, who goes down into the underworld once a year. That's what brings winter, and there's a love connection there. So there's maybe something changeable. That also fits with designer here. I think, you know, designers have seasons and so forth, but there's a bigger heartbeat under all of it, your life purpose and so forth. And there's some interesting energy over here, which I'll get to, around your spiritual calling, given that. But I feel that Spirit is definitely saying you have this really deep power and deep passion around your career, your vocation, whatever that might be. And it is something you can design and manifest for yourself. So if you feel that you are one of those people who goes, I'm kind of always getting what I don't want, Spirit is asking you to understand the subtle change is to recognize why that is. To recognize that you have that capacity to go to the depths, and so therefore you can see what could go wrong just as much as you can see what is beautiful and could go right. And it's just subtly shifting your focus and attention, because when we talk about manifestation, when we're really talking about it, it's a combination of focus, where you put your attention, and then it's also situational awareness, understanding the situation you're in, and then putting the effort and your passion into it. So I think that this is talking about a subtle change in your career, in your vocation, to understand the power you have and how to make it work for you. And some of this connects back to things that maybe spiritually you felt didn't work, or that you have a fondness for still with memory here, but that is maybe connecting. Like, I'm actually getting for some of you that you might have really loved things like Greek myths when you were young, or even the sort of, like, you know, the kind of darker sort of spiritual come romantic things like Dracula or something like that. There's a sort of a feeling of a little bit of a pull towards not evil or anything like that, but the kind of the deeper, the darker, the underneath, the psychologically deep, all of that sort of thing, maybe to do with memories. And somewhere there's a prayer concerned with what you do with that. And Sandalphon is about bringing prayer and, again, actualization, you know, manifestation into being. And this energy says the lotus within you awakes. You are a master in light on high, so do not underestimate. You're meant to be about the light as well as the sort of depths. And I don't want to say dark, because there's nothing evil, and people associate the dark with evil, but it's not that, but it is that you haven't fully seen that ability and how that's playing out. And then the ripple effect over to this, you've got the Lover and love. You are very much about relationship. You are very much about love. A large part of who you are is about love. You may, in fact, even with prayer over here, be a bit of a mystic, have that sort of sense of, you know, if I loved anything, I really love the divine. I love that kind of connection. But you're not necessarily knowing how to deal with your power in this area either, because we have famous, which suggests that you are well known amongst your circle at least, and possibly some of you even on the world stage or on a national stage or something. But with Medusa, you're a bit scary to people. The energy that you deal with is scary. It's not scary in a horrible way, but it's intimidating. You could be someone who's very much into goth sort of ways of looking and presenting yourself. There could be something unusual, a little bit kind of confronting about that. And sometimes because you care so much, you don't always say what you mean. And as a result, people may see you as unreachable. So this why do I always get what I don't want could also be manifesting in your love life. You could be drawing a lot of attention, but not necessarily having the relationship and feeling like, what's happening here. But you need to understand your power, because it's significant. And I feel a ripple effect on how does this affect your career, a subtle shift here to maybe look more at the designing and the life purpose and less about the kind of almost emotional undercurrents and depth around all this, will make a difference, because you will start to see an outcome there, and then you'll start to believe and see your spiritual ability and how that can also impact your relationship life. So let's test this out with tarot. Let's first of all ask in each level. So we're going to ask relationship first, then career, then spirit. What else Spirit would like to say to you about the butterfly effect, that the small ripple changes that could have really major impacts on your life? So around relationships. Okay, this is definitely saying, and I don't think this is the place to start. I do think career, but we'll see what the tarot says. But this is definitely saying that there are power struggles, power issues. Your power compared to other people has often made you feel alone, has often put you in kind of debates and sort of and conflict that you didn't want to be in, and hasn't really brought you the relationship that you were looking for, the stability that you were looking for. But this is about power. You are about love, so you don't really understand the power you have, but you attract people to you that want power. And they kind of can't help themselves. They want power over you as well as power in general. They sense it in you. There's something about you. They sense it in you. And I think that it's made you feel alone. But I don't think it's necessarily the place to start. I think it follows from something around career. So let's see what Spirit has to say around career. It's almost, to me, I feel, because you do attract people who are into power, because you are an inherently powerful person, that you need to establish something in your career first, almost a position or whatever, so that you don't get a lot of the sort of shadow wannabe energy around you, which you could with this sort of energy here. So around career. Yeah, this is definitely like with the Ace of Swords here, I think that's an affirmative. Yes, this is where the ripple effect, this is where the butterfly effect and the early stages of things should occur. You've been through some real drama around this, and you kind of attract drama to yourself because you're not afraid of it. So you're actually really courageous. That's part of the issue here. But your kind of courage and your capacity to deal with that has been misunderstood. Clarity on your life purpose, your goals, and your creative side, how you actually start to bring that creative energy through. There's a new idea, there's a new creative venture, there's a new role, there's a new way of presenting yourself and communicating, which will bring this more into balance and show less of the underworld, because I think everybody knows you're brave. You don't really need to push that line anymore. It's more to let people know that you also have the sort of philosophy and the passion for what you do, and to clarify where people have misunderstood where you're coming from. I think the thing that you need to understand around career, Pile 2, is that often the people who are the most innately powerful, people who are innately charismatic, innately powerful, they often don't have the positional power, or they don't seek it. Sometimes they just end up in it, and you might. But people still respond to them as though they were. You're highly influential. Understanding that and then using it to your benefit, that's the subtle change that will make all the difference, and will start to shift some of this energy as well. So let's also look at spiritual shifts. Kind of Pentacles reversed, Star, Six of Swords, Queen of Pentacles. Okay, so I feel like the Nine of Pentacles reversed and the Six of Swords somehow connects to this memory. I think there's something, I think maybe part of the power that you have and the strength that you have, there was something maybe from childhood where you had to become powerful, strong, able to deal with the dark and the light, able to understand all those nuances and feel okay within it really early. And so there is some spiritual work which potentially maybe is around prayer to bring the right people into your life, to not feel that you're always so alone, that you have to be the strong one, and to ease some of these memories that I don't think were so easy. When that occurs, and it occurs as much because you do something in the material world and claim your queendom, so to speak, in a broad sense. This is not about gender. That and your hope and your sort of light energy, bring that in to the master and light on high. That's when you heal some of this. So I do think there was something. I think for you there was something in your youth, family, schooling, something where you did see light and dark. There were really strange and difficult dynamics around you, and you had to learn really fast, and you've got a lot of power for that reason, but you don't even necessarily understand how powerful you are. And so therefore the reactions you get at work and with love life, it's a little bit confusing. But work is the way you feel at most able to deal with this in your workplace. A little bit less around love, and that makes sense because most of us are most vulnerable when it comes to love. So that's why starting the butterfly effect in the work area is helpful. So let's see what else Spirit wants to say with a different tarot deck, just to bring these energies together around advice with the butterfly effect for you. Ace of Wands, Six of Pentacles, Temperance reversed, Two of Cups. Yeah. So this is definitely, because we've got both Wands and Pentacles here, that's also sort of saying there's something very key about the material world, about the creative world, about the design that you bring to things, your life purpose, all of those sort of things. When you get that into balance, because it's a little bit out of balance at the moment, then it helps sort out the relationship. So it's saying the same thing. The ripple effect, the butterfly effect, is a subtle but clear change in your career, in owning your power and understanding that so that you can use the manifestation ability. That frees you from some of the memories that were harder spiritually and lets your light out, that then shifts all this energy around love and allows you to be the lover that you want to be. Okay, so let's have a look at some other advice. So we're going to have a couple of cards around relationship. We'll look at some cards around career and finance, and then a couple of cards around Spirit for any other advice that Spirit wants to give in those particular categories. So first around relationship. Memories. Yeah, there's something about memory. This comes from, well, it could be from a very early love, but I think for many of you it's from childhood stuff. And twin flame. Wow, okay. So if there are memories, twin flame, all that sort of stuff, if that energy is around you, that can be really tricky. And there is things about divine feminine and masculine and around getting that into balance and power and all of those things. It could also be saying that once you clear that energy, you bring in something like a twin flame. So that's a very powerful energy around relationship. But again, I think this is why career, the thing that you can sort of control on the manifest level first, because there's some big shifts that can occur around relationship. And if you've felt that you've been in a twin flame and it's been blocked, then maybe this is saying the first thing to do is to look at your career to set some of that energy free. But also understanding the memories. What was it spiritually or when you were young that created this? Okay, so talking about your career, I'm going to pull a card for career and a card for finance. So for career, approval. That's interesting. I think that came up for another reading. And finance, intentions. Okay, so this is your life purpose. This is designing things. This is making clear what your intentions are in like a business sense, in your career and so forth. You will find that you have approval for what you're doing. Like once you really step into your power and career, there's no stopping you. So that looks very positive. That's why it's the ripple effect. So let's also get spiritual energy around you. Pluto, oh, there's your power and your underworld thing again. And fire, okay. You are really powerful, I have to say, which is a wonderful thing in many ways, but it's also a challenge in many ways. And you are transformative. You are a transformative energy, both for yourself and for others. You naturally align to something like the butterfly effect. The only issue is not to overdo it. Like, it's kind of like once you get on a change sort of treadmill or whatever, you're going to run really fast. So, and I think there's fire and creativity that comes with it. You know, that's this energy and the solar plexus energy, all of that sort of coming through around creativity, creating, manifesting, all of that sort of thing. But you are acquainted with the darker side of things, and I don't mean that in an evil way. I mean you have no fear of the shadow, and I think you've dealt with it in the past, definitely. Okay, so given that amount of energy, let's use the Stories Oracle to see if there's a couple of questions that would help you in working out how to do this butterfly effect. So firstly, we have Pisces. That came up for another one as well too, so there could be some crossover between two readings here. What if you believed in the power of your dreams? So yeah, believe in the power of your manifestation, because it is profound. And dreams, Pluto, like, pay attention to your dreams. They're probably highly symbolic. Look into Jungian psychology. I reckon you'd be all over it. Okay, let's see one other question for you. Ara, what if you had the power to hurt but healed instead? Yeah, use your power to heal yourself and to heal others. That brings the love in that you want. Okay, so I'm also going to use a deck to see what signs you will see when you're starting to sort of create the butterfly effect in your life. Loved ones in spirit. This came up as well too. This is strange. I shuffle these decks a lot in between. So I definitely think some of you are coming to two, and that's interesting. You may need to decide which direction you go, which you do first, if that's the case. Okay, and for another sign, abundance. Yeah, you're going to make money. You're going to know in the career area, when you start to really make the money and bring that in and have that abundance, you're going to know, and you may well get sort of downloads from spirit, from ancestors. You may hear about or talk about people who have passed on in your family, that kind of thing. All right, so to close out, then we're going to use the crystal chakra deck for a couple of chakra energies, and then also the astro chakra deck to connect that with astrology for you. So firstly, the crystal chakra deck. Root chakra and throat chakra. So this is about your power in the world and then communicating what that means. So for the root chakra, we have red agate, which is about positivity and grounding. I feel grounded in this moment and I choose to embrace positivity. So yeah, you do have to get that balance right, because you are much more able to work in the shadows and be in the shadows and so forth, you know, gothic, all of that kind of thing. You do need to make sure that you also bring your light in and that you feel positive, because that's what's going to help manifest. And then throat chakra, we have aquamarine, sensitivity and closure. I create my own closure on whatever this was, and I honor my sensitivity, because yes, at heart you are love. That's what you are. Okay, so let's have a look to finalize this out on a couple of astro chakra cards. Root chakra again, so 2 root chakras. This is about who you are. Oh, root chakra, this is definitely about who you are and the power that you have, particularly with Pluto there. So this is like having Mars and Pluto conjunct. I mean, you guys, I tell you what, you are powerhouses. You need to understand you are powerhouses, because it's really key to who you are and to manifesting what you want. You need to be able to assert who you are. You need to be able to transform the Plutonian energy. Always transform. You're probably always going to be transforming and going to another level and another level and another level, but it starts with your career. That changes everything around your love life, and it heals something spiritually for you. So pile 2, you're impressive. I hope that you can take this energy and use it and make it really helpful and healing for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd be really interested to hear about this because this is powerful. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome pile 3 to your reading. So these cards are showing where the subtle change could occur around relationship. These are around career and these are around spirituality. I do think if you were drawn here because of the actual Atlantean card with Dioptas as the, or however it's pronounced, as the crystal, which is the healing heart, there's probably a bit of a tilt that the subtle energy could first happen around relationship and then flow into other areas. But looking at these cards, it could be about each way. It could be either that and then it does something around your spiritual energy and then around your career. Or it could be that it starts with spiritual, something subtle there and understanding something about yourself, then ripples to your relationships, and lastly then becomes something that might change things around your career. The reason I'm saying this is around the heart chakra. It is around healing energy for the heart. It is around connection and so forth. And there certainly is a sense here of some potential small changes that could make a difference for you around relationship. It looks as though there is a side of you that has been about travel, seeing the world in whatever form that is, always being free, being not necessarily wanting to commit and so forth, and procrastinating around relationships that maybe has kept you a little bit out of balance around relationship. It doesn't mean that you have to suddenly decide I'm going to commit and get married, but there may be something where in terms of relationships, a little bit more balance about where would you make decisions and take actions that were about connection rather than freedom and travel could have a flow-on effect to other things and also help your love life in some way. Now, as I say, these things can be quite subtle, and you might even say, oh, well, I actually do want to have a committed relationship, or I'm in one, but maybe if you're in one, you're half in it and you're half not. You have to really think about where is this energy around freedom, traveling, movement, and so forth for you. Do you need to make a decision about whether it's the right relationship or committing more? How do you bring those sort of things into balance in some way? So there's certainly, for many who've come here, there's a healing of the heart connection to this that is a subtle change around how do you relate? How do you balance your wish for freedom and adventure with some degree of like commitment or longer term relationship? But equally over here, we have elegance, which is beauty in some way, balance. I think this is the balance thing with Camael, which is about alchemy, and it has Mars. Mars is Camael rules over Mars in the Kabbalah, and I think this is about where action could be. So it could be saying that this is about understanding who you truly are, with listen to the eternal song of your soul, tune into it and learn to trust it. I think what it might be saying for most of the people who've come to pile 3 is there is something about balance, alchemy with you. There is something, and it needs to permeate everything. It is about being true to yourself. Alchemy is about spiritual development. It is about the divine union. It is about the chemical wedding, as they call it. There's all sorts of terms for it, but it is about bringing into balance spiritually your own divine masculine and feminine side, your connection with somebody else, all of those sorts of things that's connected to your soul. So with elegance there and that, there may be sort of something very beautiful that you can think about in your spiritual development that again is quite subtle and maybe is musical. Like there's a feeling like maybe it connects to music for you in some way that then will have the flow and effect into helping you make this decision about the balance. And then we get to your career. So I do think for many of you might start spiritually, but if you start on a relationship first and work that out, it might naturally raise your spiritual energy to think about alchemy and the great work and being true to your soul, as opposed to just doing sort of spiritual practices that felt good, look good, or whatever that might be. There's a depth to you that you're not yet plumbing. You're not yet getting to it. Then I think whichever direction that goes in, it then leads into something around your career. With the rebel here, you're probably not in the right career for you at the moment. It's very interesting we have science and the artist here and alchemy there, because that's a beautiful distillation in the material world of what the alchemist is. Science and art, science and the spirit. So there's something that is about your spiritual evolution and being true to who you are, that will ultimately be a bit rebellious, I think, in your career. And you have secrets at this point around your career. It's like you are in an environment where you can't be completely true to yourself. You can't truly say who you are. I do think most people who've come to this, if you've come to the right reading, you will go, yeah, that's right. I'm kind of in a career that's either too science or too art, or isn't about either of those. It's about financial services or government services or something. There's something where you want to rebel from that, and you want to be able to be true to yourself because you feel like you're wearing a mask. But I think it comes after these. So it's either you start with the awareness of the fact that you are an alchemist, you are somebody who spiritually wants to bring balance. You then bring that into making decisions about your love life, your relationships, and then that gives you the kind of impetus to do something about your career. So very interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use tarot, and we're going to ask about relationship, then career, and then spirit for a little bit more information from spirit about where there could be these butterfly ripple effect changes and where that energy is best contemplated and used and how. So around relationship. Okay, so what this is saying, I think, is that for many of you, this kind of like push-pull between being in a relationship and being free, trying to make a commitment or not make a commitment, make all those sort of decisions, may have come from a relationship that didn't work out, that was a little bit too controlling in some way, with the King of Swords reversed and the Wheel of Fortune reversed, and then with the Fool reversed. That feels like somebody going, you know what, I got burnt. I made a commitment, I settled down, I did all of that, and then you know what, didn't work out. Or I didn't sort of feel that my sense of freedom was allowed in other ways. So I think there's sort of something, I think there's a controlling sort of energy. And I think part of what Spirit is saying is because you maybe didn't step up to be clear about what you wanted. You procrastinated on those things. It was sort of like, as long as you could have some sense of freedom, and this brought on its kind of like controlling energy. But there is potentially a new energy around you, either right now or coming in, that will help you think about that again. And they're a little bit more like you. With the King of Wands, there's a bit more like Sagittarius and the Traveller. It might be someone who is happy to travel and be free with you, but also to bring it into balance and to be in a relationship. So it may be just the subtle energy of accepting and seeing where there is someone who is more like you, and allowing that, not sort of delaying it and sort of thinking, when's the other shoe going to drop, basically, that the feeling is there. Let's have a look at career. Okay. You're definitely, if you've come to the right reading, you're not really committed to where you are in your career either. I mean, this is the overarching feeling around this. It's like finding the right thing to commit to, relationship-wise, your spiritual energy and your career. You're not there at the moment, I don't think. You may be there because you're fulfilling other people, like your family's viewpoints about what you should be, but you haven't really worked out what you want to do on a business level, and you don't feel that you're in a just or a good environment, definitely. There's action, there's movement. It may be a new job comes up, or you just take a plunge into something new. You start to sort of own that. I don't think you do this first. This feels quite big. I feel like there's subtle energy here for the butterfly effect that then empowers you to move forward with the Chariot. But I think it comes afterwards. But I do think you're just being careful at the moment and not committing. And it's probably right not to commit to where you are at the moment in terms of work. Okay, let's have a look at spiritual. Okay. So I think you do a very solitary spiritual sort of energy, and to some degree alchemy often is a bit like that. And you think that's the pragmatic way of dealing with it with Seven of Cups reversed. You actually, for someone who I think is highly artistic, highly scientific, highly alchemical, you kind of have a little bit of doubt about spiritual things. It's sort of like, I'll believe it when I see it sort of feeling comes from this. You do have a scientist's approach to spirituality, But this is saying, I think it is saying this is where the first shift happens, then it moves to a relationship. I do. I feel like there's going to be potentially a trigger by someone coming into your life there, but I feel like the first shift is a alignment of your sort of like artistic sort of sense with your spiritual sense, and seeing where you felt out of sort of kilter with that. So this is like the Six of Swords reversed. If it was the right way up, it feels like elegance to me. Because it's reversed, you've got to actually bring it into balance more. And you will need to connect with others more. This is why kind of working here then brings in a relationship energy with the Nine of Pentacles reversed. And you're going to be a little bit cynical about doing that at first because of whatever you've gone through. But having done this shift, having really worked out what would make you feel spiritually aligned, so you're listening to the song of your soul, what would make you feel excited and free but also able to commit in a relationship, what would make you feel that you were in the right place around work rather than just fitting in. Once you've defined that on a kind of almost spiritual level, the rest will flow through. Okay, so let's use a different deck just to see if there's anything else Spirit wants to say in summary about these three areas of your life. King of Cups, Emperor, Three of Pentacles, Five of Swords. So, this is definitely showing emotional sort of change, emotional shift, emotional maturity. There's a growing up process here, but I think it's not necessarily that you're immature, but I think it is understanding the implications of who you are spiritually and how that helps you make an emotional decision and make a commitment. And I feel like this is to someone who's showing more the King of Wands and King of Cups energy, the same sort of artistry and emotional depth and so forth. This will have an impact on work. And it will start something new, and it's a really good sign that it will start something new that you are not so conflicted about. But if we think about the King of Cups starting this, that's why there's a balance between these two, because the King of Cups is also highly empathic, has a sort of alchemical feeling to it, a psychic feeling to it. So I think it is that connection, those two. And it could to some degree go either way, but I do think for most of you it's going to start with understanding your spiritual direction. Okay, so let's use some more sort of like practical advice. So we'll start with some relationship energy for you. Time apart, assumption. Okay, so some of you, some of this energy, and even around sort of the relationship that isn't working out, you may be on a bit of a break from a relationship, or it may be that you need to be able to have time apart, travel, and have independence to be able to be in a relationship. And you may make the assumption that that's right for everybody else. I think you may find someone like you if that's the case, or you may be making some assumptions around time apart from someone. But if you go back to who you really want to be spiritually, I think that's going to help you resolve that energy. Let's have a look at career and finance. Procrastination. Okay. And finance. Insight. Okay. I think this is confirming to me what comes first is the spiritual stuff, the insight. It actually has a flow and effect to all things that are material in your life. And it's like it starts there, it moves to there, and then it shifts there. So it's an insight here, it's a shift here, and then it comes into being in terms of finances and career. But it's interesting that like while you procrastinate emotionally, you're also going to procrastinate about the career. That's why it goes in that order. I think it's that spiritual. That's the first ripple effect that has a slightly bigger ripple effect around relationships and choices. And then it really impacts, the insight really impacts on your career and finance. And it shifts a block that you have around that. Okay, so let's look at spiritual energy, since I think this is the beginning for you. This is the butterfly effect. Metatron's cube. Wow. Priestess. Wow. Yeah, you are meant to be highly spiritually attuned, you know, meant to really do something in the spiritual space, whether that is ultimately something you need to do as a career, or whether it is just you write your own narrative coming from being the alchemist and being the priestess. You're very, very spiritually attuned, but I don't think you necessarily trust it. I think if you start to connect to the eternal song of your soul, which is a bit about like your narrative, and your kind of priestess sort of ability, and again, that's not about gender, that's the key. It's confirming it. That's the key. Starts there, ripples into your relationships, and then it has the biggest effect on your career. Okay, so to help you, let's see what questions Spirit thinks would be good for you to ask. So I'm going to read these out because they can be a little bit hard to read on camera. So firstly, we have crooks. What if we are not measured by what happens to us, but rather by how we respond to it? So yeah, whatever these issues are around your career, and I think also whatever difficulties you've had around balancing your wish for freedom with a wish for a relationship, it's like it's all about how you respond to it. Well, who are you at a core? Okay, let's ask one other question. Ursa Minor. What if you could be the things you loved most about those who are gone? What if you could be the things you loved most about those who are gone? So this might be about the balance to some degree. This might be about, where you've loved and lost to some degree because you procrastinated. But if you could actually take on some of that, and it might be the balance to be what would be commitment, then you can get the balance right in some way. There may also be spiritual teachers that have moved on from your life that you could emulate in some way. Okay, let's have a look at some signs that you will see when you're really starting this butterfly effect in your life. Butterflies. There we go. And a phoenix. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. So butterflies are all about transformation, and they are very alchemical. They're very much about the sort of alchemical process in the sense of that degree of transformation. You may literally see butterflies around you. You may see them on clothing and sort of symbols and so forth. It's a very common sort of symbol. It's also about that sense that you feel that you're transforming and that you're rising. I think this is the butterfly sense takes you into a relationship. The phoenix takes you into your career. Okay, so to finish off, I just want to get you some crystal chakra energies for some affirmations, and then astro chakra to connect that back to astrology. So a couple of chakra crystal energies for you. The crown chakra, this is you connecting on a spiritual level. And the heart chakra, yeah, so you start with the spirit and you go to the heart. This is confirming this. So the crown chakra selenite is about openness and access. The affirmations are, I access higher dimensional ways of thinking, and I am open to new ideas and experiences. So yes, be open to this. You're far more spiritual and psychic than you think you are. The heart chakra, a green aventurine, prosperity and transmutation. I transmute lower vibrational energies into higher ones, and I attract prosperity into my life by believing I deserve it. So yes, if you have some guilt about this sort of stuff and that's making it hard for you to make decisions, let that go. Just let your heart open. And to finish off, just a couple of astro chakra cards for you. Solar plexus chakra and the throat chakra. Okay, so solar plexus chakra has Uranus, individuality, nonconformist, yeah, the rebel. You are going to be a nonconformist. That's why you need to really work out who you truly are on that alchemical level. Find how you do this. You're not necessarily going to have the most conventional relationships, but you'll find, I think, the right people who are like you, unconventional in the same way. And certainly around your career, you're meant to be doing something different. Then once you know that, you can communicate that, and you can start to, with the moon in the fifth chakra, voice your feelings a bit more. You've probably been a bit silent about this, and also within your career environment. But once you kind of bring that energy together, you'll feel more able to say what you want and therefore manifest it. So I hope that that is helpful, Pile 3. I hope that you resonate with it and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So this is around the potential ripple effect in love and relationships. This is around career, and this is around spirituality. And going first to the card that brought you here, if indeed it was the reason that you came here. But anyway, it's a permeating energy. Morganite is about equality and love. It is about the heart chakra. It is about bringing equality and balance into love, not just love relationships, but things that people love, things that they believe, and so forth. Very powerful energy for an awakening world. So there's something I think that you have in that space to bring to others. And I think around love with Discover Your Life Purpose, they're inextricably connected also with some of the energy around your career. What I do when I look at these spread of cards first is try and work out where I think the ripple effect starts and how it builds. And I think this looks to me, given the sort of very high spiritual frequency of this and the sense of relationship, it could either start with a small change around relationships that ripples into your sense of spirituality and then into your career, or it could start with spirituality that ripples into relationships and then into your career, or even spiritual career relationship. I feel most strongly for most of you that it starts spiritually. And then I think that almost simultaneously it has effect on the other two. And the reason that I say this is that there is something within you that is shifting, and it's around, I would say that you've been hurt either in love or potentially in your career, or even around spiritual sort of things in terms of your upbringing or spiritual groups that you've been with, because you have an incredibly generous, caring soul. You are here for a purpose to help around, as I say, the equality in love, the balance in love, what love really is, as opposed to a series of transactions or power plays or anything like that. And you have a very, very, very open heart, and you've had to use it sometimes to forgive others. And you have come here, I think, with a mission. A difficult path is being revealed, asking for help and learn that we are all connected. You know that we're all connected. You know about love on a higher level than just interpersonal relationships, though it's connected to this for you. It's a bigger thing. That's why I think there is almost sort of like a forgiveness and a generosity energy that you connect into and accept the mission. And in doing that, in saying, I have been hurt before, I have been misunderstood, I have been in spiritual environments that were not conducive to me, whatever it might be, I'm still opening my heart, I'm taking this on, then I think it ripples into both these areas in slightly different ways. In your relationship thing, there is something about your life purpose being connected to relationship. It may be that there's a key relationship that's going to come in that's very important, but you need to have accepted the mission to do that. Or it could be that you need emotional freedom. So whatever you do with relationships, you need to always be free to be true to who you are. That you may in fact have a challenge around some of your relationships in that you are open-hearted and here for everybody in a way. But in the realm of love and relationships, there will be things of, who are you with, and are they the number one, and all the human things that come with that. So there's something around that. There's something very beautiful and drawing about you. The extrovert energy here, the dancer, you have a very beautiful, artistic and open-hearted, again, concept around love. You draw probably a lot of people to you because of charisma and so forth. And also they sense the emotional freedom. The issue may be, how do you balance this bigger mission with that? So there's a ripple effect of, does that mean that for some periods of your life you may not be in a significant relationship because you're here for a bigger purpose? Does it mean that in discovering your life purpose and emotional freedom, you find an elegant way to connect also with those that you care about most personally? There's something about realizing what this is that has a ripple effect into relationship and a very big ripple effect into your career. You are meant to advocate for equality, for social justice, whatever it might be. You are meant to be a leader. You are going to attract envy because of this, and maybe a bit of possessiveness here, depending upon how you play the card around emotional freedom. But you will help people go through a transition. And in fact, because of your capacity to forgive and your generosity of heart, you may transition people who are initially jealous of you, of your leadership, of your advocacy, of your extroversion, of your elegance, into people who eventually become your supporters and your colleagues and your friends. But either way, you are on a mission to shift things. And I think it will largely play out in the sort of work or political realm for you, but it comes from a deeply spiritual thing, and it has some impact and potentially at times cost around relationship for you. So let's have a look at each of those elements. So we'll start with relationship, then career, then spirit, using the tarot, just for a little bit more information. So around relationship. Okay. I think that Spirit is saying part of the courage is that you may spend some time on your own. And to be able to see it as emotional freedom and a capacity to write your own choreography and so forth and discover your life purpose. I think that Spirit is saying at the moment a close personal relationship, if you have one, it's not going to be connected to everything else you're doing. But for many of you, I think you will be alone. And there is a need for a bit of courage around that. Eventually that will shift. Eventually you will come out of that more contemplative phase and you'll be able to make decisions and transition. I think this is connecting. I think it is saying that you will eventually find a love relationship connected to your career. And I feel like it will be of sort of equals and people somebody who has the same sort of like drive and ambition and purpose as you. So there's a period of being alone that is coming off the back of you accepting this mission, as I say, but it will eventually shift. So Spirit is saying don't feel you're going to be alone forever if you've felt that. Or don't feel that if you're in a relationship that you're going to feel alone in that relationship forever. It could be that relationship shifts. But there's just something where you've got to be brave to be free rather than connected for a period of time. Okay, so let's have a look at career. Okay, so career, you're coming out, you're bringing out what you've worked out spiritually, but you are not going to be behind the scenes. You are meant to move into a leadership role or be seen in some way. There are some disappointments you have about work and about, I think it's about fairness and about equality and so forth. You want to bring more emotional richness and more emotional clarity to it. So that's part of what you're going to do. You're likely to be talking about workplace culture, organisational sort of politics around that sort of thing, or having a career where helping people become more in touch with their heart and that sort of equality and connection on a very values-based level is part of it. And you are going to be successful with this. You are going to build a kind of empire or a new way of doing things. The investment that you put into this is going to pay off. But it's in a realm where there is a lot of work that needs to be done emotionally. So you might literally work around sort of therapeutics or relationship issues. But I think for many of you, it's around politics or organisations where it's workplace culture or the kind of heart underneath how we distribute money and support and all of those sorts of things. Let's have a look at spiritual, because I think everything starts for you with the ripple effect from spiritual. Okay, that's interesting. I think two of those cards came out for another reading in the spiritual. That's interesting because I shuffle these cards a lot in between readings. So anyway, there might be some connection between these for some of you. You have a deep sense of the injustice of the world and you cannot sit by. You are not the sort of person who can be aware of things going on in the world and just put it aside if it's not affecting you. You are someone who has to get into the fray. Like if something seemed that you are too generous, you can forgive. You don't demonize people who are maybe on the other side, but you equally can't just sit back and just sort of see it pass. You need to have a point of view, have a very, very sort of powerful creative energy to bring that out. This is sort of the dancer and the extrovert. And you see where there is inequalities and power balances and power issues around relationship, and whether that's individual relationships, relationships at work, whether it's about political parties, whatever it is, you are driven. You are a driven individual. You cannot turn a blind eye to this stuff. You could not possibly do it. So you are going to have to accept a leadership role at some point, and you are going to have to balance and work out what that means for you in relationship, because you are here, obviously, like anyone, to hopefully have a loving relationship and you have a career and have a nice lifestyle and all those things, but you're here for a bigger purpose as well, and you cannot turn your back on it. Okay, so let's see with another deck how Spirit would like you to bring all that together. Because no pressure on you, pot 4. Like, wow. Okay. A Hierophant. 2 of Wands again. It's definitely connected. All of it's connected to your creative ability, your elegance, your sort of, creative flair. King of Cups, Four of Cups, and your emotional depth, your capacity to be able to forgive and move through emotional stagnation. This is very much, very Piscean sort of energy actually around this, and your forgiveness and your openness of your heart. But yeah, it's about who you are in the world. And it's about something to do with the traditional powers of the world. It's got to do with organizations. It's got to do with power structures in the world, all of that sort of thing. You have a bigger purpose and a very, very strong spiritual purpose, but it has a very material impact. It's not just sort of contemplating your navel on the top of a mountain. This is, you're in amongst it, definitely. Okay, so let's get you a little bit more advice. So firstly, around relationship. Because I do think for you, for relationship, it might be about timing, the ripple effect, about the impact of this, and how much time you have for relationship compared to your cause, at least initially. Though, as I say, Spirit is promising in the longer term you will find that connection. But let's see the energy right now around relationship for you. Listen. Decision. Okay, so I think that's really, I think it's picking up you sort of being in environments where you're listening to the emotional beats underneath things. You're hearing what people are saying, and you're then taking the leadership to make a decision on a very broad level. But it may also say that this decision, the death card here, which I think is about the decision to sort of go into a relationship, to come out of being a little bit more separate. Listen, you will know, you will hear it. You will hear the similar heartbeat, the similar person. The person that you'll give up a little bit of your freedom for, because you'll still be emotionally free and connected to your life purpose. Okay, and I'm also getting actually that they're not likely to be extroverted. I think part of the thing about listen is that you may have to listen carefully, because you are likely to have an extroverted energy around people and your mission. This person's likely to be a little bit more quiet, but nevertheless, they're the right connection for you. Okay, let's look at career and finance. So around career, purpose, yeah, life purpose. Let's see. You have a cause. There is no two ways about it. Let's look at finances. Thriftiness. So maybe to be able to do this, to be able to like get all the energy and do everything you need to do, you are going to have to be a little bit careful with your pennies. This does not mean that you won't make money or anything like that. There was definitely that sense with the Seven of Pentacles that you would build money and a material outcome. But I think as you go through this, you've got a hell of a lot you want to do, and you're just going to have to be a little bit careful about how you use your resources. Okay, given a lot of this comes from the Spirit, let's see what we can get also about spiritual energy. March Moon and the Vesica Pisces. So with the March Moon, this is a time to illuminate what's been avoided. So I think you may have known, you've had a suspicion of destiny, that there is a bigger path for you, and maybe this is why this is the ripple effect. This is why it starts there, that you're coming to that time where you're going to really have to kind of face up to that and go, yes, I can see I'm here for a bigger purpose. There's something incredibly fertile, beautiful, and bringing into balance again against the powers of the world, which are often the kind of divine masculine with the divine feminine with the Vesica Pisces. It also could be suggesting in the longer term, when you have reached your pathway and your leadership, and you've found the person and all that kind of thing, there you may even be bringing in a generational change, your own children, and potentially also generations coming forward. So there's a legacy feeling to what you're going to do. Okay, so let's ask Spirit for a couple of questions that could be helpful for you to ask as you start this ripple effect, this butterfly effect from your spiritual awareness of your purpose. So firstly, we have Hydra. Are you fighting the monster in front of you or inside you? Okay, so this is about you getting into balance, forgiving. There's so much generosity in your heart. Don't go out without the forgiveness, because you could end up battling sort of shadow figures or whatever. Really, really understand what this means. And you don't, one of the things about, it's a bit like that sort of quote about looking into the abyss and it looking back at you, or any of those sort of things, that we sometimes, when we go into a very big battle around power and all those sort of things, we have to make sure we don't become the thing we despise. I don't think that you will, but I think this is asking that question about always recalibrate back to the spiritual, to what your purpose, your generosity of spirit, your forgiveness, and so forth. And a second question is Auriga. What will you do with today? Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So I think that's just the difficult path. I think it's just saying that you are going out into something where the sort of like the easy relationship, the simple career, all that's not who you are. And so what do you do with today? And going back to that spiritual purpose, your life purpose, all of that sort of energy. Use your time well. Use your resources well with thriftiness. Okay, let's ask for a couple of signs for you that you are flowing well with the butterfly effect. Travel, hearts. Okay, so travel, you may travel quite a bit with this. You may have very much a mission in the world. It could also be that you think about travel when you're getting somewhere, you feel you could maybe take a holiday, take a bit of a break. You may see sort of brochures about travel, or see ads about travel. Pay attention if you see those. There's something that you're thinking about or planning or doing at that time that's connected. Similarly with hearts, it could be when you find the one, you know, you're really sort of there. It could be you see hearts, you hear songs about hearts, all of those sorts of things. Again, just pay attention to what's going on if you do see that sort of synchronicity. Okay, powerful. To finish off, I just want to pull a couple of crystal chakra energy affirmations for you, and then also astro chakra cards for some astrology to also close out the reading. So we have third eye chakra, which is tilting to the spiritual, and heart chakra, which is what you're really here for, which is the heart and the healing of the heart. So the third eye chakra with labradorite is about transformation and synchronicity. So yeah, pay attention to synchronicities. I understand the significance of synchronicities, and I am always transforming spiritually. Yes, you are. This is what you're here for, the spiritual. The heart chakra with malachite is about release and guidance. I seek guidance from my higher self, and I release past traumas. So I think you will go through sometimes before you find the one. I think you are likely to find the one, and I think it's somehow connected to your career, but I think you will have to go through some times where you have to almost put your emotional things to the side while you're doing this other stuff. So this is to give you the capacity to release that, forgive that, let that go, understand that you will find the right one in the right time. Okay, and to finish off, I'm just going to pull a couple of cards from the Astro Chakra deck. Intuition, so third eye again, and creativity. Okay, so in the third eye, so around intuition, psychic connections, the spiritual, we have Uranus, individuality. Yeah, detachment. There is a degree to which you're here for a bigger purpose. That's what I'm saying. And the emotional freedom and the detachment, I do think that Spirit has promised that right person will come into your life. You're not going to be alone forever, but there is a period of time where if you're with someone, you can't be with them as much as you want. And if you aren't with someone, that you have to kind of be working on this greater purpose, because you are the individual for this, and you do need to be detached to be able to do it, to create with the sacral chakra, and to connect your emotions to that, to what it is that you're trying to create, and to your instincts, so that you can read the environment, you can do what you need to do. So it could be a bit of a lonely path at first, not in the long term, I don't believe, Pile 4, but you're here for a reason. You're very necessary in this world at the moment, and I think you know it. And I think that you've got a brilliant sort of leadership career ahead, and eventually the right person, but it's the person who can be at your level and connect with you. And it's your reward, I think, because I think you're going to deserve the reward. So I hope that this resonates for you. I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share about it in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.